we can understand the basic flow of SSO SAML. Let's say I logged in to split my platform using Outlook or Microsoft account. Now I wanted to access my HR application, app.example.com. This redirect to the IDP with the SAML request, because you need to send a SAML request to get a SAML response. So who will initiate the login? Service provider will redirect to the IDP with the SAML request. Okay, it will follow redirect. We will see identity provider login screen. We will enter login user password, and then it will return the SAML response, signed SML user information, signed XML with user information to the browser. Okay, now what we will do is, so here we will post the SAML response usually via the browser post, validate the response, and service provider will grant the access. Here is actually the exchange is happening. What is happening? IDP, this identity provider, is sending the SAML response directly to the browser. Now browser post the SAML response via browser post. We will validate the response and we will grant the access to the service provider app. Now user get the access to the service provider app and he should be able to access it. So the role of IDP is to redirect, to validate and send the look into the SAML request, validate it and send the signed user information with the SAML response to the browser. And it is happening through the browser interaction. So we can also debug it and check the SAML request and response. Here also we'll try to understand what is the actual flow. SP generate a SAML request. SP doesn't authenticate user itself because SP doesn't have an identity. Instead, it generates a SAML auth request and redirect user to the IDP. IDP may be auth0, Azure AD or anything. User redirected to the IDP. If already not logged in, it will present you the login screen. Okay. Then SAML assertion is returned to the SP. Okay. SAML assertions includes user identity, authentication timestamp, signature, and then this assertion is posted back to the SP, typically through the hidden HTML form. Okay. SP verifies the SAML response. It checks the signature, issuer, audience, expiration time. If valid, it creates a local session and grant the access to the user. So, we need to typically understand how the IDP is sending the response in the HTML hidden form, right? Then service provider verifies the signature and create a local session, which gives access to the user to the service provider SP. Example use case, like user logs into the Jira, it will prompt you to the auth0 checks a session, it will prompt for the login. After login, auth0 sends signed SAML response to the Jira. Jira verifies and grant access to the user by creating the session. So this is SSO SAML flow. Okay, the diagram which I was showing here, this is also doing the same thing. IDP is sending back the SAML response to this service provider app. Okay, now the technical details, how this hidden form is returned by the IDP, how it gets the create a session, all those things we will see in the technical implementation. Okay, thanks everyone. This is all about hi everyone and welcome back. So in this video we are going to talk about the possible combinations of IDP, identity provider, and a service provider. Let's say we are building one application using auth0, without auth0. So what are the possible combinations of IDP and SP? So I will talk about two different examples first, where auth0 application, because I am a developer, I am building one auth0 app, a SaaS product, which is going to be used by IBM. Okay, and how IBM users will be able to log in to my application without creating account in auth0, because they will be using SSO. They will be just doing a login into their IBM platform using their IBM account, and with that they should be allowed to access my web application, which is nothing but a SaaS startup or SaaS platform. So what I will do is, here IDP, what is the IDP? IDP is this web app or the product, the SaaS product which I'm selling to IBM. So that will act as a service provider, because I'm providing a service and identity. I'm getting the identity from the IBM. So IBM may have Azure Active Directory or their own internal Active Directory, because IBM might not be using Microsoft things, right? So they have their Active Directory. Or let's not consider it's IBM, it's some company which is using Microsoft Azure and Teams, Microsoft accounts for the users. So their user information is already in the Active Directory. They can use this Azure AD as an identity provider. And here service provider will be my Auth0 account. So how Auth0 works, we have already seen. You need to go to the Auth0, create application for your web app, configure client ID and a client secret. So here Auth0 will be acting as a service provider, because Azure AD will give us the session token, and based on that Auth0 will onboard that user without doing login. So this first example where Auth0 is a service provider, Azure AD is identity provider. Now the same thing, same configurations I can use for any other organization also. I created another web app, another product, and I'm selling that to the Accenture, where Accenture also managing some kind of Active Directory or some identity Okta or something. So Auth0 is acting as a service provider, and that Active Directory is working as an identity provider, because that is giving us the identity. When user clicks on to the login, we will be redirected to the IDP initiated login screen. They will enter their Azure AD account details. Then they will be redirected back to the web app, and their SSOSML will do the rest of the things. So what are the possible combinations? Sometimes Auth0 act as a service provider, but in some cases you can use Auth0 as an identity provider also, right? Because Auth0 has the user information. I can log in into other applications using Auth0 account, where Auth0 is acting as IDP, and let's say some other platform is acting as a service provider. So let's take a look onto those combinations. So here we have Auth0 as a service provider. That means I built a web app, configured Auth0 client ID and secret ID, and I want the IBM users using their account to log in into the my app. So my app will be SP, their account Azure AD account will be IDP. I will be configuring that accordingly. So here we have different possible examples. So IDP can be Azure Active Directory, Okta, Google Workspace, Ping Identity, OneLogin. All these are different vendors for IDP or for authentication, like Ping Identity, Keycloak, Google Workspace, ADFS, Microsoft Active Directory. And what I will be doing as a for service provider, I will be using just Auth0 for simple authentication, right? Auth0 is acting as a service provider. It is used mostly in the B2B platform, where I'm selling my product and allowing to onboard the customer users using IDP platform, where I will be acting as a service provider, and customer user management or user directory will act as a IDP. Okay, where here Auth0 is a service provider. Let's reverse it. Auth0 as a SAML IDP, because Auth0 manages the user identity. I can also log in into other applications using Auth0 as a IDP. So here everywhere Auth0 is the IDP, and using Auth0 account I should be able to log in into Slack, GitLab, Freshdesk, Office 365, Heroku, any kind of a platform, right? These are also some kind of applications like GitLab, Slack, some kind of a startup or a product which we are Zendesk. So a simple example which I did is I have my Auth0 account, and I want to allow my users to access Zendesk so that they can submit a ticket. For that, they don't need to create account in the Zendesk. So let's say I build some application which is used by the B2B platform, the company employees, and they wanted to submit a request, like submit a ticket or request. And they don't need to create account on Zendesk. If they are logging in into my web app, which is already using Auth0, they can directly log in into Zendesk. For that, I need to provide a configuration. Okay, Zendesk will act as a service provider, and Auth0 will act as a IDP, right? It's a reverse case, but it is possible. I can use my Auth0 session to log in into third-party applications, right? I'm selling an application, right? And I can provide integration of these third-party tools using Auth0, so that even if I'm selling my product, I can provide the integration into another platform also to make user comfortable. Direct IDP and SP without Auth0. Auth0 is just like a authentication provider, but it's not necessary that we need to use Auth0 every time. Let's forget about Auth0 and Okta. So Azure AD will be identity provider. It holds the user identity, and using Azure AD, I should be able to log in into Jira, Salesforce, Zoom. Similarly, ADFS, Ping Identity, OneLogin, they holds the user identity. Okta, Azure AD, Auth0, they are like a user management solutions. They hold a user identity and they can act as IDP also. Okay, and I can access these platform. Custom, because custom also we will try to do for the demo. What we will do is I will try to create IDP using simple Node.js, and service provider is a custom Node.js React app. Or I can create like Auth0 is an IDP, and for service provider I can create a simple Node.js application. Okay, or I will try to have my Azure account and Auth0, where Azure will have Active Directory and my Auth0 will be SP, service provider. Identity will be held by the Azure AD, Active Directory. Okay, so these are like different platforms. This is how we need to think about the authentication. I mean, you see these authentication day in and out, but you don't understand what is IDP, what is service provider. Sometimes you are doing login into Slack using your Microsoft Active Directory. Sometimes you are doing login into Zendesk using your Auth0 session, which you are already logged in. So sometimes Auth0 can be IDP, sometimes it can be service provider. So it's all about the use case we are using. So that's it. In this video, I wanted to talk about all different possible things. So wherever you see authentication using SSO, try to identify who is IDP and who is service provider. That will increase your understanding about this whole platform.